what we need to do is guide, just don't inform, right? And I think that too often brands get kind of in the trap of communicating at consumers instead of really making sure that they understand how the brand uniquely delivers against the consumer need and experience.
Building great experiences, revolutionize your business. Building great experiences, innovative strategies. Building great experiences, elevate for your customers. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Building Great Experiences podcast. With me, I've got Rob Horton. Rob leads marketing at the YMCA of Greater Charlotte and is a friend of mine. We've worked together for a couple of years in prior life. But today we're going to be talking about customer experience and marketing, the intersection of those two things, and where we think it's going with all the interesting things happening in the horizon. So, Rob, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. I appreciate it. I'm looking
man.
forward to spending some time together.
Yeah, for sure. So, as I mentioned, Rob and I, we've worked together for a number of years, and so I know a little bit of his origin story, but I'm always good with how'd you get started, how'd you get into this, like just so people can kind of get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm probably one of those rare occurrences where I'm actually getting to practice my degree.
Oh.
So my undergrad degree is in marketing.
Okay.
And I started in consumer packaged goods, right? So I started with Nestlé and worked for them I was in the prepared foods division, right? So this is French bread pizza, Stouffer's entrees, all of that good fun stuff.
Cool.
Then I left Nestle for a hot minute and went to go work for the Coca-Cola company. And I did that in Atlanta for a couple years. Decided I missed Nestle, so went back for a second tour of duty, and then decided to leave consumer packaged goods. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to work in an industry where marketing wasn't an institution, where marketing had to prove its worth. So I spent 10 years in architectural coatings, which is a super fancy name for paint.
Okay.
And then after 10 years doing that, decided I wanted to see what the other side of marketing was like. So moved here to Charlotte to work for an advertising agency. So worked for Ray Ward for about 5 years on the client side of the business, running their client practice. And then after that, went into economic development. So the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance was being formed as the combination of the Chamber and the Charlotte Regional Partnership. So I was their first CMO in that role, and recently just took the job at the Y almost a year ago, heading up marketing for them.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a wide array of marketing expertise, which is awesome. It's funny, like a lot of times folks I talk to on the show, they've kind of got this like very erratic path, right? And like I love that you're like it's been really, you're continuing to get better at marketing, you're continuing to kind of widen your capability set there. I'm curious, like just out of my own fascination.
Yeah.
What was the biggest difference between consumer product goods and kind of going into more of the, call it B2B, and then, now you're in sort of this internal in-house marketing team that's very different, right? The Y is very different than CPG.
Right.
What are what are the biggest takeaways or kind of differences?
Sure. So, I mean, I think that one part of it is when you're working in a business that has both B2B and B2C, you have to remind yourself of the differences of that target audience, right? And so a B2B audience is much more fact-driven and evidence-based, where, B2C, you can, it's a little bit more personal, emotional, and influence-based, right? So what was interesting about working in architectural coatings is that there are so many different aspects of marketing that you have to, or levers that you have to pull in order to influence the consumer, right? And so the display and the collateral are incredibly important, right? Because they're inspiring that consumer to take on their next project.
Right.
And so we did a lot of work around the consumer. And, I think that's been the very consistent thread, Drew, through my career, which is you really have to fundamentally start with an understanding of your target audience. And I know that you and I have spent at least a few engagements together, really diving in deep and kind of understanding, what are those target audience motivations? Where are they looking for their information? And, what are their trigger points? And what are those areas where you can influence them and drive preference for your brand?
Yeah, man. You just sparked a bunch of thoughts, but I'll kind of keep it focused. What you just hit on, I think, is really important as we think about the future of customer experience and marketing, and specifically like the understanding of what your customer needs and wants and what their goals are, but then providing them with, I think you touch on, the way that you engage with that customer has to be something that's differentiated and needs to be unique and needs to be memorable. We did an engagement earlier this year with a home services company, and it was all about like the in-store experience, right? If I'm a contractor and I'm going into the store, how do you like catch their attention really quickly and then like educate them and give them the confidence that this product is, or these products are like really high quality and really sort of going to solve their problem, right? And it's a different way of sort of approaching things. And I think a lot of times right now, and I'd love your thoughts here, like as you look at the landscape, and obviously AI is starting to gobble everything up, right, in the marketing universe. It's interesting to think about like how do you separate yourself? And I think a big part of that is going to probably be having a differentiated experience and truly understanding your customer. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, like if you agree or disagree, if you've got other opinions on kind of where you think this is all going.
No, I think that we'll start with just one aspect of AI and what it can do, right? So first and foremost, the consumer needs to feel like you understand them.
Yeah.
And with the power of a really good CRM system and really kind of understanding how the consumer is choosing to interact with you, that helps you build that knowledge around what are their needs and wants, and what can you as a brand uniquely deliver for them.
Yeah.
So I think that what we're really excited about is that this idea, and I give you a lot of credit for this. It was one of the insights that came out of the latest batch of research that we did together, which was that what we need to do is guide, just don't inform, right? And I think that too often brands get kind of in the trap of communicating at consumers instead of really making sure that they understand how the brand uniquely delivers against the consumer need and experience.
Yeah. The guidance piece is so important because, especially when you think about, right, that it's getting noisier and noisier and noisier, and people don't know what to do or where to focus or like how to, what brand can serve their needs and is a brand they can trust. And I think like the guiding them piece of it is so important. And the way that you kind of guide people, it's also like tailoring it based on like, not everybody is wanting the same thing, right? They don't want to be guided in the same way. So you have to kind of provide that almost like, hey, we can, if you want like the whole sort of breakdown of how to do it, and we're going to hold your hand every step of the way, we can do that. Right. And then if you want just the sort of like get out of the way and just give me like the three options and let me pick and go along my journey, like you can do that too. It's like, it's creating the, not just like guided journey, but it's like the paths for the different types of consumers and what they care about. Right.
Right. I think that in this latest role, nowhere is that more evident for me. So, we are really fortunate here in Charlotte to have a Y that has 14 center locations, 3 program centers, and 2 overnight camps. So if you are a resident of Charlotte, you have a Y that offers you many different options by which to engage. So the upside of that is you have a lot of options. The downside of it is it's overwhelming. right? And so how do you really help the consumer differentiate, or our members differentiate on what are those solutions kind of within the why that best fits what they're looking for their own personal goals in health and well-being. And I think that I'm really looking forward to our next engagement together, because I know that you guys are going to really help us with a really useful tool that's going to help guide that journey in a way that allows the customer to give us some information that we might not have asked for previously. But they're by providing that information, we're able to provide a little bit more of a personalized experience.
Yeah. So one of the things that I talk with my team about a lot, and we've kind of talked about too, is we now have like a greater level of intelligence, about our customers, new data that we can collect about them as they're engaging in these sort of guided journeys, right? And what's cool is historically, like before, like literally like 2 years ago, a year ago, you had to do this kind of very logic based. If they do this, then do this, right? So if they pick this, package or product or service, then we're going to show them this kind of next step in the journey. And what's really, really cool is now you're starting to see like more of these agentic experiences where you have kind of an AI agent that's trained on your knowledge, your data, your information, right? And is able to more intelligently decide like, okay, based on these different inputs, I'm going to guide this person in a different way, which is where you start to get to this world of like hyper personalization, right? It's like more than like classic marketing. You have kind of audiences or sort of segments, right? And like that's kind of like the general way that people have thought about customer for a long time. And you've got like demographic data, right? Firmographic data, and you're sort of like you're kind of like guessing a lot of times, right? You do the research, you do the analysis, but like you're still kind of like, I think this is what they want, right? I think this is what they're going for. But what's really interesting now is we're starting to see this trend of we're doing a project at the moment, and it's collecting new information about the conversations that customers are having with this particular brand's digital assets. And it's helping us understand their intent. It's helping us understand their sentiment. It's helping us understand like who they are and their role and their kind of like what they care about. And you're starting to build this like different profile of this person where you can truly recommend to them and guide them to something that's like, this is for you, individual, not like you, the audience, you kind of general bucket of customer, right? Which is really cool. And it opens up a whole new world of opportunity as a marketing professional where you're like, wow, okay, we don't have to just sort of like throw a dart and hope that we're hitting the right mark. It's like we know what they want because we have all this new data that we didn't have before,
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, Drew. I mean, what's interesting is, right, I mean, if you look at the evolution, right, of marketing over the years, right? So, you start with mass marketing, right? It was brands to consumers, and you had a target audience, but you kind of understood them maybe demographically. Yep. Then you evolved to kind of adding psychographic attributes to them. But now we're kind of, with the amount of information that we can learn about our target audiences, we can segment those audiences even further, right? And really make sure that we're delivering a highly personalized experience that they value. Because if they feel like they're being led through a journey without much choice, you lose authenticity really quickly, right? And so
for sure,
the tools that AI can give you, and being able to do that, and to allow for that hyper personalization, I think will be really exciting to see what happens.
Totally agree. Yeah, you mentioned CRM a few minutes ago, and one of the things that I'm curious to hear your perspective is there's kind of this like very rapidly evolving way of approaching CRM, right? Like we use HubSpot, and HubSpot has this really interesting thing that they've recently rolled out. It's kind of like shows you more information about like buyer signals, but in the like moment by moment kind of scenario. So we've got, there's this new view in HubSpot where I think their AI is called Breeze, is what it's called. And we're obviously B2B company. So you can be like, all right, these are the kind of companies that we're sort of watching and observing. Basically, like, notify me when there's any kind of buying signal, right, that gives us data that we can go act upon, right? So, for example, like, have they looked at the LinkedIn's, have they clicked on our website? Have they gone on an ad? Have they talked, to this person? And, like, you start to get this way richer data, right? And, like, AI is going out and it's collecting this stuff for you and being like, hey, by the way, so-and-so at such and such company looked at your website yesterday. And then, oh, by the way, they like looked at your LinkedIn page. Like, this is a pretty high intent customer. You should probably like talk to them, right? Like,
Yeah,
you should
exactly.
probably, like, they seem like they're engaged, right?
Right.
They downloaded your thing. They did this. And it's interesting, right? Like, you think about not that long ago in CRM, like, really you just had like a lot of people. I remember the days where you're trying to drive this like CRM culture, right? Like, how do we get people to put the data in the system? And it was this whole exercise around like change management and whatever. And now, I mean, obviously that's still a thing. You want people to kind of put that information in there, but there's more of this data that's being collected automatically by these CRMs, which is really interesting, right? And I'd be curious, like, how you're seeing shifts in like just generally using CRM with marketing campaigns and sort of efforts that you guys are doing.
Yeah. So just earlier this year, we changed our CRM system. So we are now in a version of Salesforce.
Okay, cool.
That is customized for Wise.
Yeah.
But, after we launched it, we are now linking in all of our different channels of communication into that CRM system. So to your point, like, we're going to launch Marketing Cloud later this year. We have Mowgli, which is their two-way texting platform. Our app is linking to it, so that it is more. It's not requiring a heavy lift on our staff to identify kind of different changes in member patterns or identify member preferences, because it's being fed through all of those systems that seamlessly kind of link in to our Salesforce platform. So we're excited. I mean, we're really excited about what that's going to mean, because like any business, that retention is probably one of the most important aspects of making sure that your business has a very solid base, right? And so, as we're looking at member retention trends and really making sure that, back to my point earlier where I don't think I had any appreciation for all that the Y had to offer until I started working for the Y, right? And so there are so many different opportunities to connect and to become part or become more integrated into the community. But half of the challenge is awareness. And if you can't make that connection between their behavior and a solution that we can offer, then you're missing an opportunity to build a greater connectedness and hopefully retain that member longer.
Yeah, this is a great conversation. And just a side note, I think like 2 weeks ago, it was Dreamforce. It's a Salesforce big annual thing. And their whole thing where they're focusing on right now is Agent Force, right? They're basically like Salesforce agents. Really cool that you guys are kind of moving into that world. Like, definitely feel like agents that are trained on your data, that are sort of like focused on specific use cases that can help you better connect with your customer is going to be really powerful. So I'm curious, we've covered a lot of ground already. Who's doing this well? Who's kind of investing in these areas effectively? Like, what are you seeing that's kind of like best in class?
Sure. So I'll give you one example that is obvious probably to everybody that would be listening, which is Amazon, right? So, we have an Amazon account in our household. We have Alexas in our house, and the amount of personalization that happens as a result of that, based on our what we're viewing, our purchase patterns. Amazon started kind of the suggestion, the suggestive sell at the end of any purchase, and they've just upped that game and continued to kind of build and develop it. And when I purchased something in the past and I'm getting ready for my next cycle, I hear it on Alexa, right? And Alexa says, you should be ready to purchase this again, right? So I think that. That is a really great, they are a really great example, and they're so sophisticated at doing that and really understanding their customer and understanding their buying behaviors and making meaningful suggestions. So I never feel like I'm being sold to on Amazon. I feel like they're being helpful in that.
Yeah.
A little bit closer to home, and you mentioned Agent Force a few minutes ago. So when you look at the membership health and wellness space, Equinox is actually testing Agent Force right now, and so Equinox in the world of fitness is probably is fairly high end, right? But they're also understanding that that level of personalization for their members, because not every member is the same, and not every member has the same goals. So how are they? They're effectively kind of using Agent Force to help guide their members to the right fitness solutions for them to help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, I think those are great examples, and I'll have to check out the Equinox one. I haven't seen it directly, but a couple other sort of examples I'll offer up is so there's kind of the like intelligence piece, which is where we focused a lot of our conversation on, but there's also I think different. It's almost like we're going backwards in some ways on human connection and relationship, and more like in-person events and things that have started to come more and more to the forefront, right? I just signed up for this community called Base. They have I think, 8 or 10 markets in the U.S., and it's basically this whole community around in-person meeting or, coffees and lunches and dinners and sort of specialty events, and you can kind of connect based on, topics and interests and things like that. I think they've done a really great job of one, using intelligence to be able to target. I got ads on LinkedIn, ads on Instagram, blah blah blah, and then I had people that I know who were like, "Hey, Drew, you should check this thing out," and it was very, clear messaging. Who is it for? etc. But what was different is I actually had to talk to a person on the phone. It wasn't a Zoom call, it wasn't a Teams call. It was kind of a classic, I'm getting, texted by a person, and then we're scheduling time and we're talking, and I'm telling them about who I am and what I care about and whatever. And then ultimately that fed seamlessly into this, their digital experience, which is this app that they use to, and this is not a promote, I'm not getting paid to say this, but I was really impressed just generally with the kind of moving from this personalized concierge white glove sort of membership conversation to now the digital experience that is pretty easy to use and pretty kind of seamless. And I think there's this interesting trend that is starting to emerge, which is, how are you really tightly connecting the physical experience and the relationship, enabling human relationships, but also the digital side, which is everything just kind of happens, and you don't have to spend a ton of time figuring out how do I use this thing, how do I connect to this person. It's just it just works, so that's one example that comes to mind, and I'm seeing this across a lot of others. It's kind of I've referenced this company in the past, but it's the Disneyification, right? If you go to a Disney theme park, or if you go on a Disney cruise or whatever, it's this beautiful connection between your kid or you could have this really great moment with an actor, right, in the park, but at the same time you've got the magic band or whatever, and it lets you just walk around, do whatever, pay for stuff, they know your name, whatever, without it feeling like this invasion of privacy, and without it feeling why is this so hard? Which is a lot of times what ends up happening. The tech doesn't seamlessly work with the kind of the service experience. So anyway, that's another angle that I'm seeing a lot of, is people are investing more and more at the intersection of digital and physical, which I think is going to become even more important, right? As brands and marketers think about how do you connect with your customer, it's going to be like you get this intelligence, but how you leverage that intelligence should be thinking at those intersections, right? Like analog and digital.
Really interesting. And, Drew, I think that when an onboarding experience for a member at the Y goes really well, that's exactly what happens, right? So as somebody walks into the Y and engages with one of our front desk folks, they're asking them before they go on a tour, what are your goals? Why are you here? What's important to you? And then they are customizing that tour based on that input. And that input then becomes part of their profile. So as we are building more suggestions as they're kind of continuing through their journey, it's really based on, one, what they've told us, and then two, now we have behavior, right? And so now we're understanding a little bit more about them. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do as an organization is be that place of community and connectivity.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just mean, a fitness center, right? That means all of the other things that the Y has to offer, whether it's community well-being or, programs and different engagements. And so that initial input in the upfront, as you were talking about, is very analog, right?
Yeah.
But it's critically important, because if you don't have that conversation, then you're never going to get really that depth of understanding, so that you can truly be helpful to the members that you're serving.
I think marketing leaders in the next several years are going to, the good ones are going to be great at discerning when to have an analog experience or human moment versus when to have a digital touch, and like discerning when and how to do it in a tasteful way is, I think, what's going to make or break brands, honestly. Because I think there's a lot of companies right now that are going like all in on AI, trying to do everything automated, everything digital, everything, AI powered, which there's a lot of benefit, but I think it's kind of this like, diminishing returns, probably. Like if you kind of over dilute your brand with like everything's fast and easy, and it commoditizes your brand, right?
Yep.
But if you're like, all right, let's be really thoughtful here. Let's not just do AI stuff for AI's sake. Let's think about where do we leverage AI in key moments of the journey to really make it frictionless, make it easy. But then let's also be really intentional about like, this is a point where we need to have a human touch. Like we really need to make sure that our frontline workers are engaging with our customer in a specific way. We are, on our back of house, back office people, like we're handling things in the right way. And to your point, like I love that you guys are investing in this. Like if I'm a consumer and I come into a Y and I share things about my child, about me, or my preferences, and then like fast forward 2 months later and I'm talking to somebody else and like it's like I never had that conversation, I'm gonna be like, dude, why am I having to say this over again? Right. But like if I'm talking to somebody else and they already have that information and they know those preferences, I'm gonna be like, whoa, this is pretty cool, right? And it just separates the why in my mind, right? Experientially, because I'm it's more of that surprise and delight, right? And so anyway, I think that's where marketers are going to start to really have to think critically about discerning and differentiating, like this is the moment where we really need to be like hands-on, right? Versus like this is one where we need to like make it as fast and easy as possible using technology. Anyway, those are, I don't know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, what's really interesting, right, is you think about all the different ways that we are connected today, right, with our digital devices or whatever that looks like. But loneliness is at an all-time high.
Yep.
So what does that say? It says that the tools are useful, right? But being connected doesn't mean that the human interaction isn't important, right? Yeah. And finding those important points in any member or customer's experience, where AI should sort of play the role of identifying the preferences, but it never replaces the human touch. And our Y associates, one of the things that we absolutely love about them is how committed they are to our members and to our centers, and it's part of the reason why our members are so loyal and have spent so much time at the Y. It's they appreciate the people.
Yeah.
And the tools are just more, enhancing that experience, not replacing it.
Yeah. Love it. So one of the things I love about the show is I try to, everybody I bring in, we always try to make it like practical. Like, okay, brass tacks, like what do I do? Like there's a lot of things and sort of strategies, but making it more kind of practical, tactical. So I'd be curious, like, what do you think are like maybe the top 2 or 3 things that if you're, a lot of people that are listening are like mid-sized companies, marketing leaders, product leaders, business leaders. What would you advise or recommend to them as they think about the future of marketing and customer experience?
Yeah. I think we touched upon one very consistently kind of through our conversation, which is have a deep understanding of the audience that you're trying to reach and how you as a brand uniquely deliver against their wants and needs, right? So finding your differentiators are incredibly important. So it doesn't make a difference what the tool is. If you can't identify why you're different than your competition to yourself, then you're never going to be able to accomplish that to the audience that you're trying to reach.
Totally.
2 is really understanding how and where they're consuming information and putting yourself into those conversations seamlessly, right? So I think that we used to make the mistake of, forcing our messaging on whomever, was turning on a channel or, online. And that wasn't so useful because in many cases, nobody was looking for that information. Nobody wanted it. So really understanding kind of to the point that you were talking about earlier with base is understanding kind of like their buyer behavior and connecting with them when they're indicating kind of their interest in having a conversation. So I think that's also really important.
Totally agree.
And then lastly, it's about authenticity, right? Don't try to be something that you're not. And if you don't have those attributes that are that your target audience wants, then build them first before you try to present yourself as a solution.
Yeah, those are, man, completely agree. So good. 2 other things I'll add to it. So I think in a world that's getting fast consumed by AI, and in a world where you don't know what's real and what's not, right? Like, I don't know if you're seeing, there's a lot of stuff on social media where it's like people are creating these crazy videos on Sora, which is like this kind of like video generation tool. And it's like, it looks like, someone pulled out their iPhone and record some clip. And the only way it's a AI generated is got a little Sora logo in the corner, but like pretty wild, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I've been sort of suggesting to a lot of marketing leaders I talk to is like, hey, I would start to think about almost like don't polish it too much, right? Like being more real and authentic and like being obviously like human is actually an advantage, I think, because you're going to start to see the people who are just generating mass amount of content and things with AI that it'll just disappear into the sea of sameness, right? And so like things like this, right? Like conversations with real people, having like these more like in-person interactions, like those kinds of things that are more truly authentic and they create loyalty and trust and connection, I think is really, really important. And so every opportunity I suggest, like, even if you're, a consumer brand, I still think there's an opportunity to be more human, right? Like put a face to the brand, like have people right at the forefront of it, not sort of this like faceless organization. I think those days are quickly ending where it's just sort of this like, we are a faceless company, you know, and you're like, who's really behind this? Right. So that's one. And then the other one is, I think it's kind of to your first point. I've recommended to a lot of people, like, sharpen your, if you're familiar with the ICP concept, like ideal customer profile,
Right.
It's like to your, know your customer, understand your customer comment. Like, a lot of businesses right now, they're kind of trying to be all things to all people. And you could be a massive brand, but if you're still sort of just like, hey, we're everything for everyone, it's going to get hard to win and to grow in that, with that type of positioning. And so I think it's like sharpening, who are you really for, right? Like, and who are you not for, and being really clear on that. And then making your messaging and your positioning and your campaign strategy and like content and all of these things kind of pointed to those people, because then they know, like, oh, this is for me. It's not like generic messaging, generic kind of positioning. Like the base example is a great one, because, like, when I clicked on the ad and looked at the stuff, like all the messaging throughout all of the interaction and touch points was very succinct. Like, we are for, and it was like CEOs, founders, da 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 da. And then, like, we're like, they have another part of the community that's like, we are for, and it's like very crystal clear on who it is and who it's not. And that was honestly what, for me, I was like, okay, like, I don't usually join these things, but I was like, all right, I'll try it out. Like, I'll see, like, and they're saying things that I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like, you're speaking to me. Okay, right. Cool. Like, this sounds interesting, So I think it's like being very, very clear about who you are talking to, who you're serving, not trying to just sort of cast this wide net, because I really think it's going to get very hard for folks who are just kind of like, we're everything and we're for everyone. And you're like, I don't know that people want that, right?
Right. And then, the outcome of that is you're for no one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And, a good strategy is about making choices.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And what you want to be really clear on is your audience's wants and needs. And as you were mentioning a few minutes ago, demonstrating that understanding, right, through your language or the information that you're providing or how you're positioning yourself as a brand, because people connect with brands personally, or the brands that resonate the most are the ones that are able to form the emotional connection. If it's purely a rational connection, anybody can substitute a functional need. So what you have to be able to get to is demonstrating that understanding of your target audience, because if they feel like you understand them, then they're going to want to engage with you further.
1,000%. Yeah. Would love any final thoughts, parting words to the audience, as well as where can folks connect with you online?
Sure. So, we talked a lot about AI today, and I think that one of the most useful tools that y'all provided us in our last engagement, when we did this very deep dive in some research around one of our programs, was that you took that research and you put it into a chat GPT, that we can now ask it questions and it's pulling from our own data. And I think that's really important, because the amount of information that's out there, right? Who knows how much of it is actually not right? But if it's your data, and it's pulling from your information, it's right. And so I think that's really important. So that one. Two is, just because you can find it doesn't mean it's valuable, right? So understand, don't let the amount of information substitute some really good decision making, right? So what are those triggers? What really matters to your consumer and to that journey? Because that will help you sort through the volume of information that we now have easy access to. So I think that's really important. So if you're looking to connect with me further and understand a little bit more about either my career, myself, or what's going on here at the Y, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can also connect connect with me through the Y. More than happy to answer any additional questions that anybody might have or have some further conversations.
Cool. And folks, you can always connect with me, drewburdick.com. I post a lot on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter, obviously this podcast. Always great to chat with other leaders. Rob, amazing conversation. Not surprising at all. It's been amazing. I appreciate you being on the show, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Drew. I appreciate your time, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Talk soon.
Like, comment, and subscribe.